Hello and welcome to lesson number 2 on multiplying binomials is the topic. What your goal is today is that you can apply the distributive law successfully when multiplying binomials and determine their product. So that's what we're working on today is multiplying binomials. So in front of you on your sheet, you can see that we have what we call the distributive law from grade 9. And we're going to review that before we move into today's topic. Distributive law again means that when we have multiplication between a monomial and a binomial, we use the distributive law to multiply each term by that value. So we end up with 3 times x is 3x, 3 times 5 is 15. So we end up with 3x plus 15. Similarly, the x must be distributed to each term inside, hence the distributive law. And now using our exponent laws, x times 2x is 2x squared. So x times x is x squared. X times 5 would be negative 5x. And finally, when we got a combination of coefficient or a number and a variable, they then multiply in the same way, still using distributive law, we'll multiply the numbers. So 3 times 2 is 6. X times x is x squared, plus 3 times 3 is 9, and there's nothing to multiply the x with technically, so it becomes 9x. So there is our distributive law that we've already done and have talked about in grade 9 and again in this course. So what is a binomial? So just as a review or a refresher, what is a binomial? A binomial is an algebraic expression with 2 terms. All right, so for example, 2x plus 5, x squared plus 1. So anything that has 2 terms is what we call a binomial. It could be a plus b. All right, so there gives you a feel for what we're talking about. So, multiplying binomials now. There are kind of 2 ways to think of it. And I'm going to give you the 2 different methods. You pick the one that best suits your whatever speaks to you. The first one follows along with our theme of the distributive law. So distributive law says that everything in front has to multiply everything in the bracket. So this x is going to have to multiply the 2x, and it's going to have to multiply the 6. So that's where we start. So we have x times 2x is 2x squared, and then x times negative 6 is negative 6x. Now the difference this time is that we have a second term. We have the 5, and it too has to be distributed in, so it gets multiplied into that second bracket as well. So we end up with plus 10x and then minus 30. And there we go. That's the difficult part. That's the multiplication. Now we just got to collect like terms. And with the binomial expansion, it's usually just the x terms that are common. So 2x squared, negative 6 plus 10 is plus 4x minus the 30. Okay? So that is the distributive law method. The other one that we talk about is called FOIL. And some people prefer it. You really go with the one that speaks to you the most. What FOIL stands for, it's an acronym. And FOIL is your first term, so the F is for first terms. The O is for outside terms. So it's just telling you which ones you're multiplying by. I is your inside terms. And finally, L is your last terms. Okay? So these would be your first terms, or these would be your second terms, the 5 and the negative 6. So if we go through and try this, okay, multiply the first terms together. So that would be x times 2x. That's 2x squared. Multiply the outside terms. So your outside terms would be the x and the negative 6. So negative 6x. The inside terms. My inside terms would be the 5 and the 2. So that would be plus 10x. And then finally the last terms, could be the 5 and the negative 6. Multiplying them, you get negative 30. So if you take a look at the comparison here between the two lines, it's the exact same. It's the exact same line. It gives you the exact same solution. So your final answer is still 2x squared plus 4x minus 30. Okay, so the first one here is just an extension of the distributive law. Okay, that's all you're really doing, and that's what the arrows are. And I'd recommend, if you're going to use distributive law, use your arrows so you remember what you have to multiply. For the people that like something that it kind of tells you what to do, literally, it's instructions. FOIL's a nice method as well. So it tells you multiply your first terms, multiply your outside, inside, last. So it's like a template or a set of instructions for you. Both are valid. Both will get you full marks. They're both about the same amount of work. The difference is on your study sheet, you're going to put FOIL with the instructions, whereas people with distributive law, once you remember it as distributive law, you don't really have anything else to write down on that sheet. So keep that in mind. So I got a couple of examples to run through, just to make sure we have understanding. So for the first one, it doesn't matter what method. For people who are going to use distributive law, you're going to use that arrow there. For people using FOIL, you're multiplying the first terms. So 2 times 3 is 6. X times x is x squared. Next, for distributive law, you just draw the arrow. Next would be your outside terms for the people using FOIL. 2 times 7 is 14, and the x gets tagged along. Then, inside terms, negative 5 times 3, negative 15x. Watch your sign. And finally, the last term, negative 5 times 7 is negative 35. Final step is to collect like terms. So your like terms are in the middle. So you end up with 6x squared. 14 take away 15 is negative 1x minus 35. Okay? Last example here. Again, multiply your first terms for people using FOIL with the arrow. And again, for people that are using distributive law, I recommend the arrows. It just reminds you to make sure, it tells you you've multiplied everything. 3x times negative 5, so that's negative 15x. Now we go to the 8. Multiply the inside terms for the FOIL, people who are using FOIL. And then multiply your last terms. And the arrow shows you what to multiply here. Plus 40. Group or collect your like terms. And we end up with 3x squared. Negative 15, take away 8 more, is negative 23x plus 40. And there we go. So that completes the lesson on multiplying binomials. Like I said, you can use either method. Both methods are valid. Both ones work equally well. So you just need to pick the one that best suits you, or the one that makes the most sense. All right. Try the homework. If you have any questions, let me know. And try the journal just to make sure and demonstrate that you understand what's going on. Good luck.